Hi everyone, good Wednesday afternoon and welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in with us as I welcome in Stephanie Huckel, Senior Global Program Manager for Diversity and Inclusion at IGT. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Kate, thanks for having me.
I appreciate your coming in to tell us a little bit about your role at the company, but before we even get to IGT, tell us a little bit about the Stephanie story, growing up in Providence and making your way just a few blocks away.
That's true. I grew up in Providence in the Wanskuck neighborhood, just a couple of miles from where we're standing. And I had the privilege of growing up in a super diverse place because my parents were from Massachusetts and Connecticut, and they really wanted my sister and I to grow up in a diverse neighborhood because they knew that diversity was really important to the lenses that we develop as we grow. And so we moved to Providence, and I grew up in Providence Public Schools through high school. And then I had the opportunity, after a number of years after college, to get engaged in this work that revolves around diversity and inclusion. So I had that opportunity to do that work at a healthcare organization in Western Massachusetts, and then at a health insurance company in Providence. And then after 10 years in healthcare, I felt like I'm really committed to this work around diversity and inclusion. That's really important to me. It feels like almost a mission sense of who I am. And I wanted to branch out and try out a new industry. And at the time, IGT was creating their Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And I had the opportunity to try out for it. And it was just across the water from where I was working, and it was in Providence, which was home. And it's a really exciting industry with lots of opportunity. There are employees in 63 countries around the globe. So really an exciting space. So I went for it.
And so as you mentioned, of course, born, bred, working in Providence, and then going in feet first to a global company.
Yeah.
Obviously, such a footprint here in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. But talk with us a little bit about that, the global portion of the job. Mm-hmm. I'd ask you sort of what the day in the life tends to be, but I'm sure that it varies on a day-to-day basis. But Absolutely. How do you balance the Providence global work? And just tell us a little bit, again, about those daily responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Day-to-day is something new all the time. It's exciting, which I love. It's wholly committed to diversity and inclusion, which I love. And there is this balance of home and Rhode Island and our employees around the globe. There are 3 of us in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and we in total support 12,000 employees around the world. That's huge. And so every day looks a little bit different. We have diversity and inclusion groups, which are a way for employees to connect with one another around specific dimensions of diversity. We have our greater than 50 group. We have our Pride, which is our LGBTQ group, our military veterans group, Win with IGT, which is our women's inclusion network, and then our other one is Super Abilities, which is our group for employees with disabilities and people who support those with disabilities, caretakers, and so forth. And we have employees involved in those groups from over 20 countries. And those groups were launched less than a year or 2 ago. So I do a lot of work with employees in those groups. Every day employees lead those groups. It's amazing opportunities for people to try something new and polish skills and develop existing ones. I have the opportunity to do other things like coach leaders one-on-one on increasing their levels of inclusion in their own work. I deliver LGBTQ education sessions for employees at all levels. Every day is always a little bit different. It might start at 5:30. We might have a call with our colleagues in Europe. Or it might end after 9 p.m. so we can engage with our colleagues in Australia. So every day is certainly different than the last.
So what does it mean to IGT? Let's talk from the company perspective. Of course, you have the ability to interface with employees on a daily basis, but for them to be able to take part in these groups, as an employee, but sort of as a person. What does that mean in the life of an IGT employee who says, you know what, this group looks like it's a good fit. I might actually join a couple groups. Really, how does that contribute to the overall employee experience there?
Yeah, it's a huge piece for a lot of our colleagues. So these groups, like I mentioned, are pretty newly established and give employees a huge opportunity outside of their day jobs. And employees can connect in different ways. So a number of employees are involved in more than one group, and they might receive emails and updates from one and make sure that they're present at events and supporting them. And other folks might choose to step up to lead groups, to polish skills around, selling a business case or developing your network or your personal brand. And those are all things they can do through those groups. And so they can do that, which supports their professional work, but also connects into them personally. So for example, we have employees who lead our super abilities at IGT group. And those are folks with disabilities, and they've never talked about their disability at work before. But having these groups has sent the message to them that we support them, and we want to give them the opportunity to show up as a whole person at work, right? Our lives are full of complexities, and part of our work is around making sure that we're creating an environment where all of those rich skills and ideas and perspectives are things that they can bring to work every day. In part because it enables them to contribute more, right? They get more out of the work when they feel appreciated. But also, IGT gets something out of that, right? When you have employees who feel valued and appreciated and engaged, the research shows us that they're more likely to show up. They're more likely to work hard when they're there. They're less likely to take sick days because they feel better about being there. And teams are more innovative and can contribute more. And then we have great ideas and services and products that then we can offer to our customers.
And then focusing on the company perspective, of course, there's the statewide perspective as well, and how these groups, how employees at IGT really interact with the community. Just one example coming up, the water fire, the Veterans Water Fire. Veterans at IGT are taking an active role in this as well. So let's talk about that, how the IGT employees then take their passions, their abilities, their unique perspectives, and really take it into the community as a whole.
Absolutely. We do that through our diversity and inclusion groups, military veterans at IGT being one example of that. So come join us in November at Water Fire. It's going to be a good time. We have some members of the group who are IGTers, who are military veterans, who will be torchbearers. And we also have another number of other volunteers, whether they're veterans or not. So that's going to be a good time. And that's the next thing we have coming up, right? You've also seen us at Rhode Island Pride. And you've seen us at the State House celebrating the 99th anniversary of when women in this country started to get the right to vote. The IGT 5K downtown, right? Our diversity and inclusion groups are just another way to help employees connect with each other, but also absolutely to the community. And there's such an ability to do that in Rhode Island. Because IGT's North America home is down the street, that means that we have stronger bonds here, which means that we are able to connect with our community organizations in our hometown in the way that we just might not be able to if we weren't here. So it's really rewarding for me as an employee to be able to work for an employer that's also connected and committed to the organizations that mean a lot to me, right?
And I have to imagine, especially from a recruiting standpoint, when folks are looking at employment opportunities, that provides an advantage to IGT for folks who are saying, where's a workplace that I would like to be at?
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because something I've been thinking about a lot today is the opportunities that in my short time at IGT I've seen employees be given for growth. And you've had a couple of folks on the show here who have really big jobs at IGT, right? And didn't start out as those big jobs, right? And what I've learned is that they are not the exception. In fact, it sort of feels like they're the rule. I have so many colleagues who have started out in one role, and the company gave them an opportunity because they saw their potential more than they saw their previous work history, right? And I think that's really powerful because as I look around me and I look at my colleagues, the opportunities that they've been given here in Rhode Island, they've been given opportunities to better their lives and their families and their world experience in ways that they wouldn't have if IGT wasn't here.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time again to come a few blocks over here in downtown Providence to talk right to you, the viewer. So we appreciate your watching, and we appreciate Stephanie Huckel, the Senior Global Program Manager for Diversity and Inclusion at IGT, for coming in. So thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks a lot, Kate.
And thank you for watching. We're going to be popping up a couple times here this afternoon in downtown Providence. So when you see us back on your screen, be sure to watch us here on GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.